Hello, Bandicoot, and welcome back to the N.sane PodCrash. We're in Season 2, Episode 3, and we got myself, HyperTom-oose, and
Me again. Fucking,
me,
you know.
Jump
Yeah,
Button.
fucking. Yeah, I don't really call myself that anymore, and like, not a lot of people call me that.
What do you
They
go
just call
by,
me
though?
they call me by my name.
For real?
Fucking.
They don't,
Not the old name that you know, the new name that I changed my name to, the one that's on my Twitter.
which is JB Long.
Yes, because you've known me since the olden times when I had a different name and a different personal identity.
Yeah, but it still says at Jump Button.
Yeah, but that's the username. I don't like. I hold on to that mainly because I don't want people to fucking like yank it.
Yeah. So you're,
Because I've had that happen before.
so,
And plus, that way people don't get me confused with the other 15 jump buttons all over the internet. Because still to this day, people will like meet me and find out my username on stuff, and they'll be like, "Oh man, are you the guy who made all those cool little Big Planet levels?" And I'm like, "You know what? Sure, I'll take credit for them."
okay,
Well, I wasn't,
so
but
it's HyperTom-oose and JB Long.
yeah,
Well,
it's
everyone, now that we got our wonderful introduction out of the way, today's pod crash is going to be about what's going on currently in the Crash Bandicoot fandom, like where Crash is, what to expect, and
oh boy,
yeah.
oh boy,
So we're just gonna
yeah,
jump
it's
right into it, and I might
so the
be
first thing
taking a back seat for the initial beginning of this because Mr. JB is more in the know because
I'm an industry
he's
boy.
an industry guy and he knows the ins and the outs and stuff. So for the first part of this, you're just gonna be hearing me going, "Mm-hmm, okay, yeah." But
Yeah, I mean, they've heard the other handful of these. It tends to shake out that way sometimes, just because I'm a rambling fucking.
guy,
But yeah, so I mean, I guess first place to start is like I wrote a small outline because we recorded this once before, and like while we were sitting on it for a couple of days, uh, you know, various game industry events happened, various news articles were posted,
yeah, more
various
stuff was trickling out, so it kind of became
yeah,
outdated as soon as we were done recording.
yeah. So like our speculation, some of it kind of became outdated, some of it maybe was a little correct. Some of it was this, some of it was that. So like, we figured we'll just redo this. And this time I wrote an outline so that we don't ramble for like 3 hours or whatever. Because I
Right?
think we can keep this one concise.
Yeah.
We could do a half hour 45, right? Like yeah. So yeah. All right. So to start, I'm gonna do this a little backwards from the way I wrote this because I actually want to start off by saying like Crash Team Rumble has concluded new content,
Okay.
and
So
people are down about it, and I am too. I didn't play it as much as some other people, not because I didn't like it, but because we're in the fucking throes of it over at Summit Sphere, so we're trying to get our stupid game made. So like I didn't get to play it as much as I would have liked to have, but luckily it's not gone.
right, I'm still
They sun
actively playing it right now. The
yeah
only issue
they
I'm running into is it's hard to get full lobbies in stuff that isn't competitive mode. So if you're trying to grind out some stuff in the party mode,
mhm.
it's kind of like a barren wasteland. And then when you do happen to come across people, it's either people who are not actually playing and they're AFK running around in circles, or it's people who have just picked up the game and don't know what they're doing. So it's kind of aggravating.
Yeah. Well, my hope is that they at least throw the thing on Game Pass because it's not trivial to do. Like it's not quick, but like if they just at least let you get the damn Xbox version on Game Pass, like I think they were doing a PC port. They were pretty very obviously doing a Switch port because it literally like showed up in like season two's files. But
Right.
but that game had like no resources, so like I wouldn't have been surprised if that was just like a pipe dream. But if they got anywhere on the fucking PC version, if they could put it on Game Pass, even if they don't intend to bring new content back or continue it or whatever, just to like get a bigger player base and see, like that'd be
I
cool.
mean,
I don't.
if you look at the battle pass, it says that there's still 10 years left, so
Yeah, so there's
so,
time,
so there's still
but
10 years left to play, guys. It's not going
yeah,
anywhere.
but what's funny about that to me is that, like they could, like I'm glad that they didn't like turn it off, but
What, like
like
on the run?
yeah, like they could have easily just sunset the whole damn thing, but like I don't. We'll get into this later, but like I don't think there's anybody at Activision that's like gonna go to bat for it, and I don't think that Microsoft is gonna like divert resources to it. Like
Right.
if they put it on Game Pass and it blew the fuck up, I'm sure they'd like shop around to find some like external team to like make skins for it or something. But like I think the content conclusion that we had is probably likely to be the content end of Crash Team Rumble, for better or worse. Uh, but I am glad that it's still playable.
Yeah, and
Um,
I went looking through the battle pass the other day, and it's pretty much everything, that all the stuff from the initial
yeah,
launch up until current,
I
where it's like
saw
if
I
you
saw somebody today saying that the stuff that's not in the battle pass that was like in events and stuff, the events are cycling too. So like I know apparently the Thunderstruck song was available again this week.
oh, is that from the new Zap Trap thing?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know
So
that because I had already initially got it the first time through. But
yeah, so like this
the only thing that I knew that I missed was the balloon animal skin, the floater,
yeah.
and I
So
looked,
I,
and it was in the battle pass, so I just assumed
yeah.
it was all there.
Yeah, there's a few things that are like out of the battle pass, but I guess everything that's not in the battle pass is in the event unlocks and stuff.
Right.
Um,
So pretty much the only thing that isn't in the battle pass and the events is the unlockables from party mode, which is understandable because they want you to play party mode, but at the same time it's aggravating because it's party mode.
yeah, and the thing about it is like this wasn't a patch. Like they did. I mean, granted, this is just from me looking at it very quickly. Like it literally happened live while people were like playing it. Like it just kind of changed. So that means
Yeah, yeah,
They did it on the.
there was no download. It just
They
happened.
did it. Yeah, they did it on the server side. So like I can tell you, they probably did not have very much time to be like, here's the unlocks. Like like I feel like if they had more time, they probably would have like just put everything in one long pass, and like some of the like side unlocks and stuff would have been like made easier. But I don't think they had the time to really fuck with it.
Yeah, like
Um,
they did do that for some of the challenges
yeah,
with Brios and Trophies, I remember specifically.
yeah, but I mean, so that's that with Rumble. So everybody's taking that to mean doom and gloom about Crash. Like earlier today, somebody in another server I'm in on Discord was like, "Dead franchise," and like I think they were being like kind of joking, but like,
Meanwhile, it has
I
two
think if we're going
games,
to, yeah, I
two
think if
games
we're
currently
going,
running.
yeah, I think if we're going to start calling every uh, big franchise that goes on break for more than 9, 10 months at a time a dead franchise, then we've got an industry of mostly dead franchises, even among the franchises that are still being made.
Right.
Like Kingdom Hearts, the last game was 2019 or 2020 if you want to count Remind, 2021 if you want to count Melody of Memory, which I guess you do. Dark Road if you want to count 2022, but still. All right, okay. I promise I got a point here.
Yeah.
So still 2 years, right? Like, and the next one on phones isn't even in like beta yet. It's supposed to do an open beta soon on Android, I think. But like, oh, I guess Kingdom Hearts is dead until that happens.
It's like,
I'm like,
no.
oh, look at 3D Mario. When's the last 3D Mario game? Fucking Bowser's
Seven.
Fury.
You
We
count
count
that
that?
instead of Odyssey?
Like, oh, dead franchise. Mainline Mario's been dead for fucking 7 years or whatever. And like,
Yeah.
I don't think like I don't even like I get the argument more for stuff like Banjo Kazooie, and I get why people are like afraid of that. But like I, and again, I'll talk more about this in a minute when we're talking about like stuff we know instead of stuff we're speculative about. But like, just I don't. I'm not as pessimistic about it. Like I don't like. Is it again? I'll elaborate on this in a bit, but like,
The
is Crash
time the
probably
the time of annual releases is no more. Like
like
that's
there's
not
like
gonna
the only
happen
I'll
unless
talk about why I think that could get you could get to a point like that with Crash again and be fine in a bit, but like right now, no, because
just
right
pushing
now,
everything off to a bit.
because there's two more things in this section of the outline that we've got to talk about first to set
Okay,
that up.
go to it. Go to
Um,
it.
so like people are doom and gloom about it and like oh dead franchise or whatever, but like I'm not. And like I mean, let's be real. Like I've been very blunt with people over the years. Like when I've known that shit's doom and gloom. Fucking, I ran Bring Back Bandicoot for what 5, 6 years.
Yeah,
Crash has been back longer than it was gone. Like,
I know. Not crazy.
like, like, come on, guys, let's calm down a little bit here. But like, and again, I'll talk about this in the later section. But I'm optimistic. So, but before we talk about that, there's two other things I want to cover up front that kind of play into it. Number one is that uh, in events that shock the world, Toys for Bob is an independent studio. Like they left
Sorry.
Activision. They left Activision, Microsoft, whatever. It
Hey,
just
explain what going indie means for people who might not
so in
understand.
this it means Toys for Bob is the arbiter of its own destiny, right? Like they are an independent company. They're no longer beholden to shareholders. They might be beholden to investors. I don't know what their investment structure looks like. I can tell you a studio with 50 employees that is famously a AAA studio is not cheap to run. I want to answer your actual question first. Independent just means Toys for Bob is not beholden to anybody but Toys for Bob now. Toys for Bob could do whatever the fuck Toys for Bob wants. If Toys for Bob wants to go to Sony and be like, hey, let us make fucking Ape Escape. If Toys for Bob wants to fucking do nothing but work for hire shit, where they just support other studios in making their games, they can do that. If Toys for Bob wants to make a new IP and try to find an investor to fund it, or a publisher, they can do that. They're just completely free. The big thing with them being independent is that the rumors that are surrounding what they're doing independently, right? So, like, the very first thing they said when they went indie was, we're talking to Activision and Microsoft about a potential partnership, and we're exploring that, and so we're going to hedge our bet in our blog post a little bit. We're not going to talk about what it is, but we're definitely going to smack you over the head with this big ass hint. So the first thing they did was like, "Oh, hold on to your horns," and people are like, like,
Horns?
"Oh,
They're gonna make a Spyro game.
yeah." So like, of course, like, um, so like they go from that, and then a little bit later, there's like some hemming and hawing about what they're doing, and you don't really hear anything for a bit, and then Windows Central, Jez Corden, he's a very connected Xbox Microsoft focused journalist, came out and said like, I've confirmed it. Toys for Bob and Microsoft have reached a deal. They're going to make a game together, and it would be. And he apparently one of their executives said in a meeting, according to Jez, and according to Jez's sources, that they wouldn't confirm what the game was, but that it would be, quote, something like very similar to prior Toys for Bob games. And so, that combined with, the fucking
News.
blatant hint in the blog post kind of like, to me, made it obvious. So I think, like, off the bat, like, as far as what has happened so far, I don't think there's anything that should make people be worried about things like Crash and Spyro, because like they've kind of like come out and said like, hey, we're still gonna do stuff like that, and like if they'll let us, we'll do it. But as far as Crash and like where we're at for Crash, just based off of the happenings of the last couple of months, I'm optimistic. So I think next, what I would say is like, just to put some like personal spin on this, like I think, next let's just throw industry scuttlebutt aside, throw news and rumors aside, and let's just say, what if it were up to you, and then I'll go after. But like, if it were up to you, like,
Where would
what
I
would you want
bring?
them? Yeah, where would you go with Crash or Spyro or any of that crap?
So if it were up to me, I would clarify the whole timeline dimension stuff issue like right off the bat in whatever new installment we get, because the fandom is split. Some people understand what was going on, other people are confused, and like right off the bat in the first cutscene or anywhere, it would just be like, "Hey, everything is canon. It all happened in one timeline," and I would move on from there because the fandom
I
ripping itself
agree.
apart like drives me nuts. How it's, oh, this is the true fandom, and this is this is what counts and this is what doesn't count, and it's like, why would you want to limit what you
And
can take from? Like, the Viscount I think is a really cool guy. Like, he's a purple Tasmanian devil. He's rich. He's got a cool jacket. I like his design, and you could build off him so much. But people are like, "Oh, he's from Boom Bang. Boom Bang sucks. Boom Bang didn't happen." It's like, why? Just because
yeah,
you didn't like a game shouldn't dictate whether it falls in continuity with other things. So that's the meta. I would want the game somehow to establish everything has happened in one timeline. Yes, Crash has jumped to other timelines, like he went to the 10th dimension and stuff, but that's dimensions and timelines again. But
believe me, I've done the science on this. It's not as hard as people want it to be.
yeah,
Like it,
so
it makes just fine sense by just saying it and getting it out of the way.
and then so that I would want that to be. I wouldn't even want it to be taking place after Crash Bandicoot 4. I would want it to be at the end of the timeline, because for some reason people think, "Oh, Uka Uka found Cortex. We need another game in between." But we really don't. It's just like
Like to
Uka
me,
Uka found Cortex and now more stuff happens.
I think I've said this to you before, but to me, initially I was like, "Oh, that's a cliffhanger to set something up." But now, in retrospect, like knowing what Paul Yan said about the timeline and shit, like in that video, in retrospect, it kind of feels like that 106% ending was kind of just like, "Hey, everything else happens. He gets out of here," because like
Yeah, it's just
they
like
put
back
they
to
put him in a
normal.
weird, yeah, they put him in a weird pocket dimension, so like they had to explain, "Hey, he gets out."
Yeah, and in the
Like,
intro, it
because
shows that Uka Uka has the ability to rip through dimensions. So he came, he found him, and he brought him back. And now we're
yeah,
back to status quo.
yeah, but so that's the meta. Like, I'll just get this out of the way. I would do the exact same thing. Like and you don't have to do it in some big theatrical cutscene where it's like this happened and this happened and this happened. You can do it as like side content in the core game. Like you can have the game start off and be like loosely fucking tied to the last thing. So like On the Run is after Mind Over Mutant, obviously, because of the fucking stuff laying on the island. So you could just be like, hey, Cortex did a dimensional thing. Whoa, and then that sucked. Now we're doing this. And like but in the side content you can be like, or like you can have dialogue where Aku's like, hey, you remember that time that we fought those big muscle dudes with ice powers? Or be like, hey, remember that time we went to Japan for some reason?
Remember when Coco was on a scooter outrunning a tidal wave in Japan?
Remember when that rich dude brought us over to find that big jewel and then you fucked it up for him?
The big power crystal? But
Yeah,
yeah,
literally just like. you don't
Sprinkle
like
some dialogue in.
you don't got to overthink it, right? Are we ever going to go back to Motor World in a Crash game? Probably not. Are we ever going to really see Von Clutch in the main story of a platformer? Probably not. But like, what's the point in saying, "Hey, that didn't happen"? Because it's like it just gives you more shit to draw from. It's like what you
Exactly.
said. Like it just like if they do like a Crash comic, they could drag some of that stuff out because I can tell you doing like a long form comic is not going to work with the same fucking 6 or 7 guys over and over and over.
Yeah.
So like, so like,
Oh, you got Crash, but you also got Fake Crash and Evil Crash and Carbon Crash. It's like, bruh, they're all Crash, and you want to
yeah.
have more characters.
So like that's like all of my friends kind of land on the same point, right? Like, quit this mixing and muddling. Just move forward. Like I don't want them to like come back in 6 years with the next fucking big Crash game and be like, well, gotta follow up on all these plot holes that 4 leaves because the end of the game doesn't explicitly have somebody say, hey, this part connects to CTR.
Right.
I'm like, don't worry about it. We'll just tell us to assume it does and do a new story. We'll assume it takes place at the end of the timeline, even if it doesn't fucking talk about Mind Over Mutant at all.
Right.
Like,
You don't.
just you don't have to fucking do like I like that when they do it, but it doesn't need to be like every single time we come back from the fucking couple of year Crash hiatus, we have to fucking go, well, let's explain why this game is, just make a self-contained Crash game, and we will know instinctually as human beings who can think this one takes place after all the other ones that are already out. Like,
Yes.
it's unless you start the game saying this is a prequel to the original or some bullshit. Instinctively, we are all going to collectively go, oh, this is the new Crash game. It probably chronologically takes place after all the Crash games that have come out already.
Exactly.
It's just common sense it. Sonic it. Like Sonic Frontiers mentions the comic shit. It mentions every fucking 3D Sonic, mentions fucking Sonic the 2D shit. There's some Sonic battle references. Like, it's all canon. And it like events, we've always talked about that before, right? Events, not art. Events, not fucking details. Like, the
Like character
story is the
designs, you
important.
mean?
Yeah. So like, but like even details. Like in some games, they're like, oh, well, in this game, fucking Shadow was a little more edgy, and in this game, Shadow's pretty goofy. So, like, can they really be the same fucking time? I'm like, just, it's not about the tone or the details or the fucking nitty gritty. It's about the high level. Fucking Sonic went to fucking amusement park in space and fought Eggman and had some aliens help him do weird laser shit, right? You don't have to talk about the little nitty gritty bits. That's what they should do with Crash. Like if in Crash 9, the Nueve, fucking yeah, they like just literally be like, hey, like, did you know Crash fucking went to an iceberg and fucking blew up a public school? He sure did. All right. Cool. Does that affect the story in this game? No, but it happened and it's cool to talk about. That's my stance, right? Just clean it all up. Just it's all in there. It's all in there. Don't think about it too hard and just move forward.
Yeah, you kind
And I
of
don't.
hijacked. You kind of hijacked what I was saying.
Yeah, because I
I
was gonna
only,
say the same thing.
yeah,
Right?
I
So
only
like,
got my meta thing out of the way. I pretty much would want a platformer, and I know people aren't always about nostalgia, and they do want new stuff, but I would like a game that would like it would the whole game itself wouldn't have to visit old areas, but at the same time I would like some old areas mixed with new areas. So you pay homage to where you've been and then can go on into the future and show some new stuff. And as far as the game, it would obviously be a platformer, but I would like the game that I always go to as one of my favorite games is Jack 2, and how much stuff they managed to like put into that game. So I would like a game similar, not in tone, but in like collectibles and world building and stuff like that for Crash. And then another thing, this just sounds like me borrowing from other games, but stuff like the Chow Garden, it doesn't have to be exactly like that, but I would like mechanically something similar to that, so you could like, even when you're not playing the game, you could be raising a species, and the chickens have been like a real big thing in Crash, but at the same time, I wouldn't want them to have like fights because that's literally cockfighting. You'd have chickens fighting one another, so there'd be something to work with around there.
Hey,
But
Radical would do it. They would have the cockfight.
so you'd have you've seen there's all the different kinds of chickens, the Nitro, the Inferno, and but
Yeah.
something I would like a platformer with like RPG elements in it, and like side stuff like upgrading your chicken to fight other chickens or something like that.
Mm.
And yeah, you're laughing, but I'm
But
serious. It
no,
doesn't
I'm
have to.
laughing.
Go
No,
ahead.
I'm laughing because of the specific thing about cockfighting. Like in my head, I'm like, I just created and developed by blah blah blah, and then it's like Crash Bandicoot cockfights.
Yeah,
It's
but
like
that wouldn't be the main pull of the game. I'm just
no, but that side content should have its own intro sequence so that they
Crash
can say it.
Bandicoot cockfighting. No, but
Crash
like you could.
Bandicoot.
It doesn't have to be chickens. It could be the
Yeah.
the anthropomorphic wumpas. But then you might get people raging that, oh, now it's
Ugh.
rabbits. But there's something there. I feel like, even if it's just making anthropomorphized gems or crystals, I would like to be able to customize something within the Crash Bandicoot series and have you be able to level them up to
No,
battle other
see
people.
you could do it with the Wumpa thing.
And one of the fun facts said, "What would you call a baby Wumpa fruit? It's a Wumple." I took that to mean that that's what those anthropomorphic Wumpas are called. They're Wumples. Just like chows, how you can like make them. Plus, we've
Because
seen
I
how cosmetically you've seen some of the like the badges and the banners and
yeah,
Crash Team Rumble,
because
how they have
I
different
yeah.
Wumples. Let me just finish my thought real quick. So we talked about the meta, we talked about the game, and then I don't know if it would work, but have a companion kart racer game, or if it just make it a mode, just like have some, since like I said it was going to be like Jack 2 ish. You could also just have the races on the overmap. So I don't know, but
See now you're
that's what
you're
I
getting
would
into
like in the
the
future for a
you're getting
Crash
into the
game.
you're getting into the big budget stuff now. Like you can do all that in one game.
Hey, it's my ideal dream game, I guess.
All right. I
Okay.
think they could see. I think they could do stuff like that if they were willing to take on. You know what? I'll. If they're willing to take on smaller budgets and have external teams help them. I think they could do smaller stuff like that, and I'll. That's what I want going forward, like from a business standpoint, because I already covered the canon shit.
Yes.
As far as meta stuff, like outside the game itself, because for me, the game itself, I want them to do a lot of different things as small projects that are going to make their money back quickly, that are going to be expanding the horizons for Crash. Uh, I think they should do a fucking PS1 size platformer. It's literally just 25 levels in Warp Room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fucking like little cutscenes between the levels like they did on the PS1 games. I want them to do a CTR. You know what? Fuck it. Throw in Conquer, Banjo, fucking Blinks, all that shit. Fucking put in the fucking lead character
Oh,
from
I just
Hellblade,
got
right?
what you were
Like
just saying because it's in the Microsoft IPs now. So what? Just
yeah,
have like a Crash Bandicoot kart racer
yeah, it's
featuring,
just
and then just
it's
throw all the
CTR. And like still do the adventure mode, right? But like fucking have like the adventure mode is like kind of in Crash universe, but then like the fucking side content, like
like arcade.
unlockable character, arcade and unlockables can be like, oh, there's a banjo track, there's banjo and Kazooie as separate racers, and here's Conker, and here's Candy, and here's fucking Blinks, and here's the bad guy from Blinks, and here's fucking Grunty, and like here's Master Chief, and like literally just fucking do it all, right?
Yeah.
Like I like, and then fucking do whatever the fuck they want. Like they did that Sonic visual novel, The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. I played the shit out of that. It was great. I want a fucking Crash visual novel. It probably cost them like $200,000, so they'll never do it unless somebody brings it to them, which I hope somebody fucking does. Because if they're willing to do an indie game with Toys for Bob, and granted, Toys for Bob was their studio 2 months ago, but if they're willing to do one indie game, they're likely to be willing to do others for the right pitch, for the right budget. So I'm hopeful that for these IP that they've hoovered up, and that extends to like Banjo, Conquer, like anything that they own. And this goes for Sony, Nintendo. I really hope that people are willing to open AA back up to third-party studios. Now, that's me for what I want going forward for Crash. There are a couple things I want to wrap up really quickly just to hit on before we sign off.
So like I kept touching on it earlier, but like as far as Activision, I think like I talk about a lot of different industry stuff with people. Like people generally think that Activision is probably just going to be like COD under Microsoft, and Blizzard will be Blizzard, and King will be King. But then anything else that Activision like brought in the acquisition is just kind of like Microsoft's to either play with or not play with, right? And I think they're based on this Toys for Bob report, whatever it is they're doing, Microsoft and them working on a game together, I think it's indicative that they're likely to let people use those things and not sit on them as long as the ideas are good and the business is good. Which kind of goes into the other thing I wanted to talk about. I'm sure you've seen the Canadian guy Spyro video about the Toys for Bob Microsoft project being Spyro 4, which as far as I know is just what he's calling it for simplicity. I know that guy pretty well at this point from talking over the years and doing like our little backstage junior journalism hobby, like comparing our little war stories and stuff from the backstage of Crash. I've been connected to Crash devs and publishers for like going on 2 decades now, and I think he's at this point the most connected person I know. So like if he's saying this is not speculation, I'm not doing my usual theory content, this is a report, then I am kind of tremendously inclined to like believe him because I've known what he has known in the past. He's also just very genuine and sincere as a person, having done stuff with him even professionally too. So I can say that like he really does just care about Spyro this damn much. Like to me, that video was meant to be like, hey, everyone, I know it's scary because of the merger and the Toys for Bob layoffs and them going independent, but I've got the intel and there's good news. It's just going to be a bit. And people give him shit for speculating and stuff over the years, but I know personally they really have been trying to get a Spyro made for years at Activision. So, in my opinion, he was probably connecting some correct dots over the years. I mean, in this case, I won't speak out of turn here or get too wild. But there's a reason I quote tweeted his video announcement the way I did. You can look into that if you want. I'm not saying anything else. It's just that like this dude is nauseatingly careful these days because he like is aware of that reputation of, oh, don't stoke false hope, don't do this, don't do that, and like he always labels his stuff speculation because of that. And this time he very cleanly said it was not speculation. And I think he's obviously well connected. Like he's known for the zipper emoji and things like that. And I'm like, so like I don't think anybody needs me to tell them that he's well connected. So I think there's maybe also a concern that I've seen from people that the report might hurt the developers or put the project at risk if it's a thing or what have you. But frankly, I could say if he feels safe enough to say it, then he probably heard it from like a shitload of people. and I've never known him to blow anybody's spot. I've never known him to put anybody at risk. So, in my opinion, it's not going to hurt anyone to put a pin in something that the company is already pretty clearly teasing on their social media, anyways. But that's all I wanted to say about that. I think he gets a lot of shit, and I wanted to explain why personally I trust his report. And the reason that I wanted to explain that is that I think, as I said a minute ago, it's kind of indicative of where these kinds of mid-size IPs are going. And I hate to use the word mid-size to describe like Crash and Spyro because they're both billion-dollar franchises, right? They're like huge pieces of media. Like Crash, sales-wise, is pretty strong. Spyro Reignited was strong sales. But just they're not Call of Duty, where Call of Duty Vanguard can quote unquote fall south of expectations and still sell 30, 40 million units or whatever. So like there are only like a handful of IP that can do that. So your first parties, they're only going to want to do that kind of stuff, at least if they have to pay for it themselves. So what I'm hoping that we see, and I think the Toys for Bob deal plays into this, is that I broadly hope you kind of see more of that industry wide, where these first parties and other big publishers are willing to give independent studios or third party studios, even if they're big like Toys for Bob, like even mid-sized stuff. Like I think if those studios were given the latitude to kind of like borrow these IP with oversight, I think that is a good way for the industry to kind of pivot away from this like super franchise void. But I think that we need to pivot towards that. And I'm hoping that like the Toys for Bob thing is like an indication that like some of these first parties and big companies are going to be open to doing that, because it's a pivot that I think needs to happen. So that's the gist. That's all I really wanted to say about any of that.
Okay, well, that's gonna wrap it up for season 2, episode 3. We really appreciate you spending some time with us and listening to us talk about Crash. Anything else to say, Mr. JB Long?
Nope.
Okay, guys,
Afraid I said too much.
Oh, okay, guys, you take care and have a great night.